Coming up on this week's show, we've got the second part of our interview with the Brockmann-Gaffney clan as they talk more about being a creative family.
Welcome to the Big Gay Fiction Podcast, the show for readers and writers of gay romance fiction. If you can read it, write it, watch it, or listen to it, these two guys are going to talk about it. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Adams and Will Knaus.
Welcome to episode 90 of Jeff and Will's Big Gay Fiction Podcast.
I'm Jeff from JeffAdamsWrites.com.
And I'm Will from WillKnaus.com. This week's episode is brought to you in part by listeners just like you. We'll have more information on how you can help support the show in just a few minutes. Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you.
Jeff is 1,000,000,000,000 years old.
Sometimes it feels that way.
As we are currently recording this ahead of schedule, this particular episode will air immediately following.
Yes.
Your birthday.
Sunday the 25th was my birthday, so...
Happy birthday.
Today is post-birthday.
Post-birthday. Yay.
Yay.
Any wise words you want to impart us with, or...
I don't think so.
No, you don't.
I don't have wise words.
As I mentioned, we are recording this week's episode ahead of schedule, which means about 15 minutes ago, we recorded episode 89. And let me tell you, a little sneak peek behind the scenes, it did not go well.
No, we did not.
We were so off our game. It was pretty terrible.
It was crazy.
The fact, I mean, we literally only had 10 minutes in which we had to talk because the interview with Suzanne Brockmann and her family was so long. So really, all that we needed to do was talk a little bit at the beginning and a little bit at the end, and that would have been it. But it took us like 30 minutes to record that short 10-minute... It was really bad.
It was horrible.
I couldn't, find my words in the beginning.
And then I lost mine at the end.
And it was...
It was crazy town, and hopefully this one will go better.
I can't guarantee it's going to be any better. I apologize ahead of time.
Well, the trick is, if I do my job right on the edit, nobody ever knows there's a problem until we talk about it.
Ever know. Okay, award show news.
Awards news.
Fill us in, oh wise and aged one.
So, wise and aged one. That's what I get now. I'm not. What's it going to be when I turn 50 in 2018?
I say that with love.
I know. So recently, the Romance Writers of America released some award finalists for this year. Big congratulations to T.J. Klune, whose Murmuration is nominated in the Historical Romantic Mystery / Suspense category for the... Oh, you're going to have to help me out with this.
Oh, the Du Maurier.
The Du Maurier Award for Excellence in Mystery Suspense. Now, Daphne Du Maurier?
Daphne Du Maurier.
Oh, lordy. See, but I knew I was going to have trouble with that going in, so this doesn't count as,
it's okay.
Weirdness. She's the author of the classic Rebecca. And these particular awards are given out by RWA's chapter that's known as the Kiss of Death chapter, since they're mystery and romantic suspense. So congratulations for TJ on his showing up as a finalist there. In addition, this year's Rita finalists also were announced. Congratulations to all the finalists, and in particular the LGBT books in that list. We've got Pansies by Alexis Hall, nominated in Contemporary Romance long form. Fast Connection by Megan Erickson and Santino Hassel in the Contemporary Romance mid-length. And Far From Home by, I think that's L'Oreal Brown? Sorry if I butchered your name. In the Contemporary Romance short category. Those were the only LGBT books that I found. If you read that list, feel free to call out other ones if we missed any. The complete finalist list for both of these awards will be linked up to in the show notes for anybody who wants to check it out. The award ceremonies for both of these take place at the RWA conference at the end of July in Orlando.
Cool. Really quickly, I wanted to mention something in association with a book that I have talked about several times on the podcast. The children's book, Promised Land. I, of course, loved it to pieces and highly recommend you search it out find it and get it for the young adult in your life.
Or the adult if you like the books, because let's face it, it's a good book.
It is. It's really, really good. If you go to the promisedlandstore.com, you can see some of their new merchandise. They've got t-shirts. They've got poster prints. Jeff recently bought me this adorable poster of an illustration straight from the book of Prince Leo and Farm Boy Jack reading under a tree. It's so adorable and so cute. This hangs in my office where I can look at it every single day. They have also just released a coloring book version of the book. You can find that at promisedlandstore.com. They have some, I believe it's like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Free?
Free? That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
There are some free coloring book pages that you can download and color for fun to see if that's your jam.
Mm-hmm.
So
And there's also physical coloring books and digital download version of the coloring books.
Yeah.
So you can get it in whatever choice you'd like. Will's holding up one of the free coloring pages right now.
Yeah. This would make a really great project for the summer if you have kids home during the summer and they're driving you crazy and you need a couple of minutes of quiet to yourself. Having them color some Promised Land pages would be a lovely afternoon summer activity.
Absolutely. I want to call out, too, that they have said that 20% of the digital download sales from the coloring book will be donated to Inside Out, which is a charity organization working with youth schools and communities to make New Zealand a safer place for all young people of minority genders and sexualities. Mm-hmm. So thumbs up for that. So think about picking up the digital copy of that coloring book.
Yes. You've got some news. We're going to be doing some more traveling.
I know, as if we don't travel enough, particularly me traveling enough. When I make my work trip to LA for July, Will's going to be coming with me because we're going to take in a couple of screenings at Outfest. On July 16th, which is the final Saturday of the festival, we will be seeing Something Like Summer, which is based on J. Bell's book, as well as the premiere of East Siders Season 3. They're going to be screening their first 4 episodes there. So super excited about that.
Gonna be good.
You can see the complete screening schedule and ticket details for the festival at outfest.org. And if you'll be at screenings on July 16th, let us know. And maybe we can meet up for a second and say hi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, as I said before, that we are recording this episode a little ahead of schedule, so there are no new patrons to report.
That's right.
But I thought I would just take a moment to fill you in on how you can become a patron. You can help support this podcast with a monthly pledge through Patreon. For as little as 25 cents an episode, your pledge helps pay for the cost of producing and distributing this podcast. Now, for those fans who pledge at the silver and gold levels, you'll have the exclusive opportunity to ask questions of our upcoming guests. We have some really good ones coming up.
We do, and I just updated the list on Patreon. As we talked about in the last episode, we are a GRL featured blog tour stop again this year, and I just put in the 9 authors that we'll be talking to on the tour, so you've got a chance to ask questions of those folks as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you are a patron currently, we'd like to send you a special Pride Month thank you. Please go over to the Patreon page and send us a private message with your snail mail address, and we'll send you a little card saying thank you and Happy Pride Month. Now, get your addresses into us by June 30th.
But that is the end of Pride Month, after all.
It is. You can get more details and information on becoming a patron at patreon.com, patreon.com/biggayfictionpodcast.
Want to be among the first to know what's coming up on the Big Gay Fiction Podcast? Join the Big Gay Fiction Podcast monthly newsletter. As a subscriber, you'll get our exclusive coloring pages that you can download and color. You can even send us your artistic creations and we'll display them in our online gallery. Go to biggayfictionpodcast.com and sign up on the homepage.
So you've been busy reading. You've got like 2 books to talk to us about.
I do have 2 books. The first one I would like to talk about is Stage 2 by Ariel Tachna. This is the 3rd book in her Lexington Lovers series, which are all loosely connected. They take place in Lexington, Kentucky, but they can all be read alone separately. This particular book is about nice guy principal Blake Barnes and Thane Dalton. Thane has his own construction company. He's, a big, strong alpha male. And through circumstances, he has to raise his 2 young nephews. And his 2 nephews go to Blake's school. Okay. Blake had a crush on Thane way back in the olden days of high school. And he's sort of like nursing those feelings. And he's like, oh, I don't even know if Thane will remember me when he sees me. And it turns out Thane doesn't. When they first encounter one another at the beginning of the book, Thane's nephews have been bullied. And he's called in to address the problem by Blake. So they don't get off on the right foot. To help solve the problem, Blake thinks that the nephews should join him in working on the backstage crew of the drama club's spring production. Since the boys are kind of new to school and don't really have any friends, he thinks, an after-school activity with, involved students will help them in that manner.
Sure.
Also, Blake can kind of keep an eye on them and keep them away from the bullies that have been tormenting them. So that's what the boys end up doing. They go and spend their afternoons helping build sets and taking care of all the minutiae of creating a high school production. Thane becomes involved. He wants to make sure that the boys are getting along, and that since he's in construction, he's got a bit of pride in what he does. He wants to make sure that they're building things right. He continues to butt heads with Blake, but sees that Blake does know what he's talking about, especially when it comes to dealing with young adults, especially troubled youth. The nephews, their mom has died, and they've been sort of left stranded with their Uncle Thane, and they're still trying to work through some of those issues. Anyway, as everyone works on the play, Thane and Blake sort of have a begrudging respect for one another, and that respect eventually turns to affection, and Thane asks Blake out. And there's sort of a back and forth about whether it's appropriate or not to be dating, the guardian of, students. But they eventually start going out and dating, and it's all very sweet and wonderful. And they do end up, of course, falling in love. But damn you, Ariel, there is a big, horrible thing that happens like 40 pages before the end of the book that throws everything into question, and you have no idea how they're going to make it through this. But they do. So, damn you, Ariel, freaking me out. But I really loved Blake and Thane.
It takes a lot to give him stress, so I'm happy to see that can happen.
Yes, it did. So I really enjoyed Take Two. I highly recommend it. It's the 3rd book in Ariel's Lexington Lovers series. Check it out.
Cool. I look forward to reading that one because I have loved that series.
Yes. The other book that I read this week was called Cowboys Don't Come Out by Tara Lain. This is only the 2nd book I've read by Tara, and I really love her characters and the way they kind of I'm not sure if I can put it into words. They interact in a very honest and genuine way. This particular story is about a cowboy named Rand. He has a ranch in California, and he goes on a vacation with his parents to Hawaii. He's not necessarily estranged with them, but he doesn't hang out with them an awful lot. And this sort of mini family vacation is a chance for them to, he needs to be the dutiful son and spend at least a little bit of time with them over the holidays. They're in Hawaii for Christmas. And when Rand is there at this small resort, he runs into handsome cowboy Kai. He's a Hawaiian cowboy. He actually works in the stable at the resort. So that's how Rand and Kai meet. They don't... they kind of butt heads at the beginning. But when Rand goes to a local bar and sees Kai dancing there, it kind of lusts at first sight.
Nice. Okay.
Plus, after that, there's sort of a clandestine moonlight meeting on a nude beach. And they discover that they really like one another. But there are, of course, issues standing in the way of their love. Rand is just, a haole from the mainland, and he's going to be going back to his life soon, so it doesn't really make sense to, strike up a serious relationship. And Kai is busy taking care of his two younger siblings.
You've got siblings going on and children going on all over the place this week.
For this particular week, it was a whole lot of kids going on. Anyway, Kai has got some issues with his past, and he has to take care of his younger brother and sister. His younger brother and sister actually take a liking to Rand, which makes Kai think twice about having a relationship with this seemingly perfect and handsome cowboy who comes riding in on his white horse, ready to rescue them and all their problems that they have. Things don't go well. Rand actually ends up going back to the mainland before he finally realizes how he really feels about Kai. There are also some dramatic issues about Kai's brother and sister and the issues they have with social services. But all that ends up getting worked out, of course, by the end, and they have a happily ever after. I really love this book an awful lot. I said so online earlier this week. I love Rand and Kai so much. They've got such incredible chemistry, and I really like the way they work through their problems in an intelligent adult way. To get to their happy ending, and they really deserve it. So the ending made me really happy. So I highly recommend Cowboys Don't Come Out by Tara Lain. This is the first book in her Cowboys Don't series. The second one, which I'm very looking forward to reading, is called Cowboys Don't Ride Unicorns.
Well, why not?
I have to read it and find
out. You better explain that, Tara, because I think they might. Just saying.
Anyway, so I highly recommend Tara Lain's book. Give it a look-see.
Cool. So this week, we finally caught up from a show that was on back, I believe it was in March.
In March, yes.
Yeah. When We Rise, which was ABC's 4-night miniseries that documented the gay civil rights movement going from 1971, which is 2 years after Stonewall, all the way through 2015 when the Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage across the country. I was blown away by this series. So much, I knew a lot of the history that it depicted, but not all of it. It was also interesting to see the West Coast take, because this series really is set primarily in San Francisco. There's a few times where we leave the San Francisco area, but so many of these history lessons in the gay liberation movement take place in New York. When you look at Angels in America or The Normal Heart, and even when the band played on from many years ago, they're centered up there. They mostly deal in the AIDS crisis, and this was a more sweeping look, which I was really taken with.
Mm-hmm. This series by Dustin Lance Black was based, at least in part, on the book of the same name by Cleve Jones. His memoir was released last year, and the paperback edition of When We Rise is actually coming out this September. The miniseries essentially follows three different people, three real-life people, and their part that they played in the gay liberation movement. Cleve Jones, Roma Guy, and Ken Jones. No relation to Cleve. if you start watching this series, with, of course, episode 1, give it a chance. I was a teensy bit confused because it's got so many characters in play in so many different places all over the world. It took me a while to realize that the story was about these 3 main people and how they came from very different places and eventually made their way to San Francisco, where they all kind of essentially just fell in to what would become the gay liberation movement. And you're right, it's essentially it's the tale of what happened in the post-Stonewall era with Harvey Milk and everything that transpired after that from the 70s through the current day. What else do you want to say?
I was going to say, it really focuses on some seminal moments, which is Harvey Milk's election to the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco, and then his subsequent assassination, the AIDS crisis, and then marriage equality.
Yes.
And also kind of the gap between the AIDS crisis and getting marriage equality, because there was kind of a space there where not a lot was happening on that front, and it's interesting to see, especially I thought from Cleve's point of view, how he kept knowing that we needed the movement needed to keep happening, but there was nothing that was sparking it in the aftermath of the major AIDS outbreak of the late 80s.
The show is really well cast. I enjoyed everyone, especially the 6 actors who played the younger and then older versions of our 3 main characters. Now, our sort of description of the miniseries is sort of focusing on the historical aspect, and it is, of course, educational, but I also thought the miniseries was really well done and really emotionally engaging. You cared about who these people were and their own personal struggles, outside of the gay rights organizations that they helped found.
Because each of them had their stories. For Roma, it was finding, I think, family. For Cleve, it was about how to... I think he was only fully engaged and happy to me when he actually had something to fight for. And Ken's story kind of broke my heart. And then he found his redemption, which was pretty awesome. I feel like this should be required viewing in a lot of ways, especially in the political climate we live in now, because it's just going to be a matter of time before I think many of us have to rise up in the gay community, for women, for minorities, for non-Christian religions. And this really shows to a huge degree how these groups came together in a lot of ways to get some of these things done. The gays and the lesbians figured out that they needed to work together to move an agenda forward together. There were times when they worked with the African American community to get messages out. The women came in during the AIDS crisis and took care of the gay men. And it shows what happens and the power you have when everybody works together instead of sniping at each other. And it's a lesson I think everybody needs kind of now.
Now, as we're talking about the show currently, it's available to stream on abc.com, and also as a digital download. You can purchase it from Amazon and iTunes. Right now, currently, for some reason, it doesn't seem to have a DVD release date. So we will keep you posted. Hopefully that will happen soon.
I would hope so, because I'd imagine there's some pretty excellent
bonus material
there. So now we've got the second part of our interview with New York Times bestselling romantic suspense author Suzanne Brockmann, her husband Ed Gaffney, and their son Jason T. Gaffney, who all collaborate together on the California comedy series. Now I want to remind folks that we've got the opportunity on the show notes page through a rafflecopter for you to enter to win to get ebook copies of the first 2 California comedy books, which are Creating Clark and A Match for Mike. Suzanne has also added to the giveaway for this week. So there's an additional rafflecopter on the page where you could register to win autographed paperback ARC of Some Kind of Hero, which is the latest installment of the Troubleshooter series. That book doesn't come out until July 11th, so you've got a chance now to get a copy in advance and to have it autographed. Pretty wow, huh? Both of these rafflecopters run through July 2nd. The key to the one to get Suzanne's book is there's a question there that you're going to have to get the answer to inside the interview. So make sure you listen close so you can get the answer to that and register to win that book.
I really enjoyed sitting down with the three of them. Mm-hmm. We had a great time talking to them. They're an amazing bunch of wild and funny and creative people. Now, in this second half of the interview, we talk a little bit more about their creative process and how they collaborate. Also, we find out what they all have coming up in the future.
Did you read a lot of your mom's work as well to get ready to write in the romance novel genre area?
Yeah, I mean, I love, I'm very partial to any book with Jules in it. I fell in love with Jules and the Hot Target. My actual favorite book of my mom's is called Infamous, and that one takes place on a cowboy movie set. I have a thing for cowboys, so it kind of was a match made in heaven. And then there's a ghost, so it's kind of cool and paranormal. And there's a really funny scene between the ghost and the lead guy and the lead woman. But that one in particular, I would love to see that made into a movie someday, because I would love to make that into a movie someday, because it was such a good story that I was visualizing it as I was going.
What's it like to write sex scenes with your dad? Which, has to be the question that gets asked at some point in this thing.
Of course. So, it's we're a very open family, which is awesome. And my parents have never shied me away from sex, in TV or films. They were never that's something to be afraid of, and stuff. And in fact, my dad, even though I went to a school where they had a great sex ed program, and they were very, we learned about it in 5th grade, and then again in 6th, and then I think we hit it again in 8th. They really were driving the point home, be safe, use condoms, it's going to feel great, do it when you're ready, not now, stuff like that. And so my dad also sat me down for, the birds and the bees talks and stuff. And then when I came out, he came to me again and said, I'm not super familiar with, gay sex, but I kind of get the basics. If you want me to kind of walk you through it. And I was like, I'm good. And he said, well, but either way, I'm going to put a present on your bed for you. And I was like, okay. And we both knew he was talking about condoms. Well, whatever, Dad. I want to go play my PlayStation. Thank you. And as a surly teenager. And we had a cleaning lady who would come and kind of help dust and do the floors and stuff, and just keep our allergenic people from dying from all the dust. And she was in my bedroom vacuuming, and she was helping out with tidying up, and she noticed the condoms, and she placed them onto my pillow for me. And it was just kind of after that, nothing was really embarrassing or awkward. And although I do get a little giggly when I write something in the scenes, and my dad will go is that a real thing? And I'm like, yeah. Who's teaching who now?
Yeah, exactly.
I have to. You can't see it because we're in Skype, but I'm climbing onto a soapbox now. I have to tell you guys something about this. You're absolutely right, Jeff. That is the question. That is the question. And why I'm on the soapbox is because I feel like it shouldn't be. Mm. It absolutely shouldn't be the question. And why I'm very passionate about this is our culture has done such a spectacular job of screwing up sex and screwing up gay people's lives. and they come together in an incredible, just an incredible confluence of disaster around gay sex. So that when Susan and I became aware that we were the parents of a gay kid, we both, we didn't speak about it specifically about this, but I know I took it very, very, very much to heart that I needed to make sure that there was absolutely no way that I ever supported or gave any kind of unspoken cue that there was anything wrong or scary or dirty or sinful or shameful about sex or gay sex. And that message is, I would love to live in a world where that question would never come up. Mm-hmm. I got to tell you, this is a kind of it's related. It's a little bit off topic, but it's related. We just finished editing a movie called Russian Doll that we all worked on together, and this is a thriller. The lead character is a lesbian, and she has a subplot, a romantic subplot. That character was played by my daughter, Jason's sister, Melanie. Jason plays in the movie. He plays a horrible man who tortures and kills women. And that's what he does. When we were making the movie, the question was not, how did it feel to direct your son into this character who tortures and kills women? The question was, how did it feel to direct your daughter in a love scene? Mm-hmm. A perfectly lovely, joyful, happy, sweet, romantic love scene. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Our world has gone way off the rails. We've managed to put what's private, and we've managed to equate that with shameful, and I think that has really messed up a lot of people's lives. And I'm so happy to be able to be a part of a tiny little collaboration that gets to tell people you're wrong. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're way, way, way off base.
Romance novels romance novels are subversive. I mean, they're the message. I mean, if you think about it in terms of message to women, because women too are told sex is bad and wrong and shameful, and you shouldn't have sex until, and it should never be pleasurable. And if it's pleasurable, you'll die at the end of the book. And so here's the romance genre that where women get to have sex and enjoy it and live and get their happily ever after and happy endings, and so now there's this wonderful genre of LGBTQ romance where that same subversive message is being told to countless people across the world that gay men can have sex and fall in love and not have to die at the end of the book either. And so I think it's an awesome thing to be part of that messaging, because it's just a great message. Sex is a great part of being in love with somebody, and it's pretty freaking good.
Well said. I mean, for us we were at RT a couple weeks ago, and it's amazing still how many women feel the need to hide what they read. And they go to RT and they get to have this free few days where they can be with their tribe, where they can talk about this and not be looked at in a shameful fashion. And that's so unfortunate that it still persists. While romance is a multi-million-dollar industry on its own.
There you go.
Yep.
Ching.
So, how many books do you see in California comedy? Do you have a projection of how far they'll go, or will they just go on until you run out of tropes to mess with?
And then repeat them, because you can't run out of marriage of convenience stories, I'm telling you.
We have a friend whose favorite trope is secret baby. So if you can find a secret baby, we will pass that book right over to her.
That'll be our challenge, yes. We'll figure it out, I'm sure.
Secret baby's not easy in the gay romance genre.
Not easy.
As of now, I mean, it's definitely open ended. Like, I love telling stories, and you know, and right now my dad and I are working on pre-production for the next feature film we're going to make called Analysis Paralysis, and but we can't do, like, as much as I love making movies, I can't make a movie every month. I don't have the finances or the resources to just bang them out the same way. But I personally have these stories I want to tell, and I love telling stories. And so to me, it's a great venue to keep doing that. And when we write them, I like to look at them not just as a book, but as a potential future movie down the line. And so while we're writing them, that's also why sometimes I'll read the lines out loud. It's because, like, if the script's already written, then we don't have to worry about, like, writing the script later on, just plugging it from one to the other. And so, you know, for now, it's just going to be an open-ended, fun extravaganza.
I like the extravaganza part, and of course, Ed just mentioned a few minutes ago with Russian Doll. As a family, along with your sister Melanie, you guys collaborate all the time on so much. I think I read on your website, Suze, that you've done YA novel with Melanie.
Yeah, she's a good writer too. She is. It's
so amazing to see such a creative family continuing to work on projects. Where do they usually kick off? Is it just one person has an idea and, like, hey, let's think about doing this?
That's it.
That's really, although we have a joke in our family that it usually starts with an irate phone call from Jason.
There's only an issue in the world that's not being addressed, and they phone call up and say we have to address it.
Yeah. But yeah, basically it's somebody gets an idea and starts talking about it, and so whether it's a movie or a novel or, you know, it just
play.
Yeah, a play up. It just kind of goes from there. Yeah.
So to kind of give us an idea of these phone calls from Jason that come, how did The Perfect Wedding, you know, kind of kick off for the family to work on?
Yeah, well, it started with a phone call.
Yes. So I was at a event for, I want to say it was for the Ali Forney Center, which is a great organization, helps youth, LGBT youth who have been kicked out of their homes in New York City. Donate to them, they're awesome. And I remember it was Christmas time, and I went there with my friend, and he's like, I got tickets, we're going to go, you're going to have fun. Let's go. And I was like, okay, fine. And so I went, and there were free drinks, and I noticed that there were a ton of naked Santas. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is an event for youth, for donations. Why are there a bunch of naked Santas? And I'm all about sex sells. Like, it totally makes sense to me. And then I started thinking about it more and being like, you know, like, I've seen so many gay films where if it's not about, like, the few that weren't about coming out or sexuality were really, like, sex romp focused. It was just, like, scene after scene after scene, which also has a place in the world and that can be very enjoyable to watch. But I had noticed that there was no movie that was just a romantic comedy with the guys that didn't rely on just pretty people being pretty to get sold. And so I had a few glasses of wine.
Which usually accompanies the irate phone call, I would like to add. That may be traced to the origin of the irate phone call.
And I call my parents up and I'm like, oh my God, I have the best idea for a movie ever. And my parents are like, okay, Jason, like, okay, go ahead, tell us. And I'm like, no, you have to take me seriously. Like, this movie is real. And they were like, yeah, just get on with it. And and so then I laid out kind of the idea of The Perfect Wedding with, you know, you've got a guy, he has to come home. He's been telling people
It's another marriage of convenience story. It's awesome. It's another, except there's a twist.
Yeah, and so I mean, the story really evolved. Like, the character of Paul in that movie didn't come until draft 6, which is amazing because he's the main character, and we didn't know we were missing him. But then the next day, like after the phone call where I was pretty sure my parents were brushing me off and not really paying attention to me, I called them up the next day, and with the same amount of urgency and irateness, said, I am sober now,
sober.
and we're still making this movie, and here's the beats of the movie, and we're still going to do this. And it was like, who knew Sexy Santas were going to inspire me to pursue a sweet little romantic comedy.
Yep, it was awesome. That's what it takes. It takes a phone call and conviction. Again, taking on the very grand project, and you never know where it's going to come from.
You guys have a really unique family, and it brings. I can't help thinking of the family in the play. You Can't Take It With You.
Oh, I love that show.
For those of you who are listening and don't know, You Can't Take It With You kind of revolves around a wacky, unconventional family, and they're like singers, and they're painters, and they're dancers, and they're all wild and bohemian and funny, and that's where comedy ensues when a straight-laced family kind of comes into the picture. But you guys do it's kind of bananas. You do a little bit of everything. There's movies and books. You did a play off Broadway. It's kind of amazing.
Jason and Melanie are both adults. They don't live with us now. But there was a time when Jason was living with us in Waltham, and it was a very big house. And Jason was in community theater.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a terrible actor. This is my range right here.
He's really good at that range.
I am good at sarcastic over guy. That's it, though. That is my guy, my one guy. Okay, so anyway, however, because community theater always needs adult men in the chorus, Jason was constantly dragging me into shows. He was doing Annie Get Your Gun, and I was in the chorus. And I was assigned the role of the guy who was doing a lasso, a lariat. Okay, so I had to practice how to do that, the rope trick, okay? Our friend at the time, Eric Rubin, who is 6'3", was cast in a different show, which I'm sure you're familiar with, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And he had to practice walking around in heels that were...
He was, what part was he, Jace? Well, he was,
Brad, right?
Brad, yeah.
But at one point, Brad has to wear heels, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Eric was practicing. So Suze comes down. She's writing on the second floor. She comes down, and there's Eric clomping around, giant Eric clomping around on these 6-inch heels, while I'm twirling a lasso in the middle of our house.
Tap dancing. I think Jason was tap
dancing. And Jason might have been tap dancing. That's right.
And I was like...
That is the scene out of our family as You Can't Take It With You. That is as bananas as it ever got in one spot. We are now bananas across the country, but at that moment, we were there. You are right, Will. We were right there.
But on the other hand, Jason learned incredible. We had a house where people are always at our house for dinner, even today. But back when Jason was growing up, we were kind of the tribe central. We were where all of our musician and artist and actor and teacher and all these creative friends would gather, and we were all starving at the time. But Jason learned incredible comic timing at the dinner table. Like, it was just because we had all these really funny people who were always in all these incredibly awesome conversations going on at dinner every single night. And so Jason, as a 10-year-old, had this incredible dry wit that he had learned from all the comedians who were at our house all the time. So it was a really great, and he was, as a little boy, Jason wanted to be an actor. He did his first show, and it was a semi-pro production when he was 8 years old. And he did, I think it was 52 performances of Oliver. That's a lot of driving. That's a lot of Oliver. But he wanted to be there every single night. It was such a good experience, and it was so Jason was part of the colorful family as well, right from the start. But I think it was a great way to grow up and learn to kind of value yourself and value your creativity and to actually learn how to get something done. We work together as a family in part. Well, first of all, because we really like each other, which is a kind of good thing, but because we have all learned how to get things done and how to do it efficiently and how to take on a project and complete it. Because I think that a lot of times in life, there's something you want to do, but you don't really know how to do it, and so you never really get started. And that's, out of all the things that I think that Ed and I have taught Jason and Melanie too, it's how do you do something grand? How do you decide to take on a project, and what do you need to do to stay with it and to finish it? And so I feel pretty good about the parenting that conveyed that message, because it is, when you write a book is as fast as Jason and Ed write, it takes a significant amount of time to go from page 1, chapter 1 to and they lived happily ever after. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of cool.
Maybe you should have a parenting book as well to help other parents grow kids like this. Do you foresee expanding the Suzanne Brockmann's Presents banner at all into other people, or bring in other authors, or?
I've been thinking about that. Jason and Ed have been my experimental kind of team because I like working with them. But I also knew that they wouldn't really complain too much as I was learning the self-publishing ropes. Jason is my my technology expert, and so between the two of us, whenever Jason and I do anything, it's pretty noisy, but it's fun. So we'll be Skyping and we'll be like, "What is Amazon doing now?" And how do we do it? But it's awesome. We're learning how to, we just changed the cover art for, you guys, we just changed the cover art for Creating Clark and A Match for Mike. So the new covers are up online now. So changing the cover art, that was an adventure that we did last week. So I can imagine, I am a huge fan of own voices, #own voices. I think it's really cool that that LGBTQ romance has it's kind of started out with women writing male romances, and now the authors, there are way more gay men out there who are writing romance, and I just really love that. I really love having giving an opportunity for people to tell their stories, and so I think it's really important. So I can imagine maybe opening our doors to other authors at some point in the future, but we're still kind of learning the ropes as because
it's only been a year.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
So what's coming up next for each one of you?
Well, the guys are working on, they're in pre-production for a movie that they are going to be filming in the fall. And I've got a book coming out in July. Some Kind of Hero comes out. It's another in my troubleshooter series, Navy SEAL hero, romance novelist heroine, and it's a lot of fun. Then we're just, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be cooking meals for Jason's movie for the cast and crew. I'm pretty sure I'm like, I may be in charge of catering.
Strict budget.
There's a whole other side to Sue's. It's called craft services.
Whatever it is, it'll be noisy.
No, it won't. Not during the takes.
Yeah, no, that's what
It'll be quiet, noisy.
Yeah. So that's
I'm writing a book right now. I'm writing a thriller, a legal thriller, about sort of with a Black Lives Matter theme. My working title is Woke, and I'm telling it from the point of view of a white lawyer who I'm actually a criminal appeals attorney. That's my training. That's where I got. I started writing books because Sue's was a bestseller, and I got an idea for a book, and she said, "Why don't you write it?" I was doing criminal appeals at the time, and I had an idea for a book. Anyway, this book is about a man who is assigned a case. He's assigned to look into the case of an African American man who was shot and nearly killed by a police officer, and ended up being convicted of the crime of attempting to kill the police officer and serving 30 years in jail. And through his investigation of this crime, learns not just about the crime, but learns a whole lot about the way the criminal justice system works and doesn't work with respect to African American defendants. And so I'm kind of early on. I'm about a quarter of the way through. It'll be a long time before that book's done. We're going to do Analysis Paralysis, which is that's a romantic comedy that Jace had an idea for, that we co-wrote, and we're going to be filming it out in California in October.
Yeah, October.
Yeah, we're in the casting process right now, and we've got some great people. Oh boy, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be funny.
Excellent. Very cool. So that hopefully comes out sometime next year, probably?
That's the goal. The goal would be that Analysis Paralysis would be, if I can do the editing at the pace I want to do it, hopefully, knock on a lot of wood, would be ready by
we can do it.
Summer.
We can do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what's the best way for everybody to keep up with you guys?
Probably through my email newsletter.
Yes.
It's on my website. You can go to my website and there's a link to my newsletter right there. And because I tend to spread the news about things like, if Russian Doll gets into a film festival, what's going to happen with Analysis Paralysis, and I definitely do keep readers posted about things like the California Comedy Series and so on.
Cool. Well, we'll link up to that in the show notes as well. Well, it's been totally
amazing talking to you both, talking to all three of you.
Same here.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Well,
Thanks for having us.
It's fun.
Hockey players Simon Roberts and Alex Miller never could have known that the moment they first kissed, they were embarking on the love of a lifetime. The Hat Trick box set is their love story, as told by Simon, beginning their senior year of high school through college graduation and beyond. From the insecurity of coming out to mentorship of gay youth. For Simon and Alex, it's always about love, family, and hockey. The box set includes 3 full-length novels and 3 short stories in one easy-to-download ebook. Get yours today at Amazon.com and other online retailers.
So just a reminder as we wrap up, 2 Rafflecopters on this week's show notes page. 1 to put you in the running for the ebooks of the California Comedy Series. Another to get the autographed ARC from Suzanne Brockmann. Both waiting for you, both good till Sunday, July 2nd.
Mm-hmm. Now, coming up in episode number 91, Brandlin will be here to have some book recommendations. And plus, we're going to recap our New York trip with a whole bunch of theater reviews. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you don't like theater, I'm going to be sassy and tell you right now that you probably, you know what, you don't have to listen to next week's episode.
Wow, what if we've got like some major breaking news at the top of the show or something?
Well, then they'll miss out, won't
You
they?
can listen to the front. If theater's not your thing, you're probably going to skip that middle section.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a whole lot to talk about next week.
Yeah.
Until then, guys, I hope everyone has had a happy and healthy Pride Month 2017. So until next time, keep reading.
For detailed show notes and the complete episode backlist, go to biggayfictionpodcast.com. New episodes are available every Monday on all major podcast distributors and YouTube. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.